Hello and welcome to the video. This is the third video in the system scan Python tool that I'm building. And I had a thought when I was doing the box last week, the res box, if you saw my previous walkthrough video, that next thing we should add is searching for the SUID. Now, those of you who know what the SUID is, you also know there's a GUID. And I thought about combining those into one, but I thought probably better to separate those because sometimes you want to search for one, sometimes the other. You can run both. I want to have options here. So we're just going to focus on the SUID today, and then to make the GUID script, it's literally just changing the command that we're going to run and the filter we're going to use. That way the most common things, like su, sudo, stuff like that, doesn't show up because that's not really going to be that useful to somebody. They should think to check them. So what is SUID and how do we find them? SUID stands for Sticky User ID. Let's jump over to the terminal. Let me show you some file permissions if you're not familiar with them. Okay, here we are on my terminal, and if we just run ls-all, you can see we got a bunch of stuff in my home directory here, but let's take this flag.txt here. If you look, we have this first little dash that tells us it's a file. If there's a D, we know it's a directory. The next three bits are the user permissions, group permissions, other permissions. So here you see there's an R and W, which means we can read and write to the file. Now if there was an X, this means we could execute the file. So that's your standard permissions, RWX. Well, where this X is, if you see an S, the letter S, that means that the SUID is set. So whoever runs that command will automatically get the level of permissions of whoever the owner is. So now how do we scan a system to find them? We'll simply do that with the find command. So you get find /-perm -4000 and then 2 greater than /dev/null. So if you're not familiar with the find command, should be by now if you've watched my other videos. This slash means we want to search from the actual root of the drive. -perm means we want to look at the permissions of all files, folders that it finds. -4000 says we want to search for that SUID. If this was 2000, that'd be the GUID, and 6000 is for both. And then this last bit here just simply says if you have any errors, send them to dev null, meaning we don't want to see it on the screen. So we just hit enter. Okay. So as you can see here, this is what we're going to be getting back. Yes, I use Snap on my home machine for a few applications. But usually when you run this, the biggest thing you're wanting to look for is the user bin, S bin, stuff like that. And any directories that might stand out a bit, like the share code, share Kiro, sandbox, stuff like that. If you see something in user lib, probably not going to be that big of a thing. In fact, on most machines you may not see anything from this directory. Okay, so to make this a little bit easier, I want to go ahead and just grab this right here. Control-Shift-C to copy it. Let's come back in here real quick and let's just make a file to hold this. I'm just going to call it temp. Paste those in there. We're going to use this to help build a list of things to ignore. And again, this is going to be a list that you can add to, take away, change up however you want to. So since I try to keep a standard format in between all these files, usually what I'll do is I'll come into something like home scan because it's a relatively small. Take all the code, copy it, make sure I'm in the modules directory here, and we're just going to type in and make a new Python file, SUID_scan, and we'll go ahead and post that in, and then I'll immediately come up here and adjust the comments as needed. Okay, so here's a new comment for this. Scan system for SUID, test is, and I put in the command that I showed you in terminal. This will look through the system and try to find any files that have the SUID set. Also has a filter list. So then the next thing real quick is to change the scan that we're going to do. And simply to make it easier, because we're using popen, and you have to put each part of the command in these little brackets separated by commas. I'll come up here, copy this, come down here, paste it in, and start at the front, open, close, comma, and just do the next one. Okay, so once it's done, it'll look like that. Now the communicate here will leave the same. We're going to leave this the same because this is where we're going to implement the filter lists. We don't necessarily want to waste CPU cycles on doing that unless we absolutely have to. So just real quick, we'll change these right here. Okay, so I've changed these and I went ahead and changed the name of this. And for testing purposes, what I'll often do is I'll just come down here, comment that out, and I will actually call this and run it. So in this case, we just do scan.scanSUID, and we'll put that inside of a print statement so we can get it out here. So all we have to do is hit run. Okay, so we got an error back. That's why we like to test this independent. And this is weird because this should work. I'm not sure, and I actually just took a minute to dig around, and yeah, this should be working. I am not 100% sure why it's not. So, interesting. Well, this gives me a chance to show you one of the ways that I use AI when I'm coding and run into something like this where I'm not quite sure why it's erroring out. And you may already see it. Great. I'm not, unless it's maybe because of that. Not sure. Here in Kiro, you can just hit this little button up here to bring out the session, or you can hit it again to take it out. Okay, so in this case, what I'll do is just state what line we're running the code on, and then we're getting an error when we run it. Okay, so what I typed out was on line 18, showing where it's at there. I use popen to run the find command. When I run it, I get the following error, and I do the 3 ticks, put in the code 3 ticks. Then I'll let it know that however when I test in my terminal, it works. So then it'll go through, see what's going on, and it looks like, oh, it only works when you're using shell true. Okay, interesting. Now you see it did change, it just took it out. So I still want to keep the error there, of course, and it decided to just remove it. And down here you can see it gives us the option to accept the change, and you can either just leave it this way, hit the revert button, and if you want to see the changes, you can click the view all. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit the revert. You see, it just puts it back. So now I know I need to be shell true. I'll just come here to the end and just add the shell equal true. Save it, say bye-bye to the session, clear this, and let's run it again, see what we get. All right, there we go. We got back quite a bit. Okay, so now we got our command running, and we can get an output. Now, again, you saw I got a lot on my machine, but when we run this on a target machine, it'll be a smaller list. It always is. So let's figure out how we're going to build that filter system. Honestly, the easiest way that I can think to do is we'll make a list. That'll be our filter. And then we'll take the scan out output and break it up. And we're going to take a look at exactly how it is printing so we can find a good breakpoint to separate the lines. Typically, it's going to be a /n. Like how you can see here in the code, I had basically an enter button to go to the next line, /n. We'll look for that, but there could also be a /r sometimes. So how do you know what's there so you know where a good clean breaking point is? Well, we simply tell this part right here, since we know we're getting a result, instead of just printing scan out, we wanted to print the byte code of scan out so you can see all the formatting options. The simplest way, and we'll try this first, is just use the built-in encode. And we'll set that to UTF-8, save, and let's run it. You see we have this leading B here, and that's letting us know this is a byte string. Not a typical string, but a byte string. And as you can see, I have those /n's there. And so since that's the only one we're seeing in the end, we're just going to use a separate option on that /n. So what we want to do is we want to leave the output that. We're going to make sure that everything gets put back into that variable so it can be printed out. And what we're going to do here, we're going to add in scan list equals scanout.split and put in that /n variable. Now for our list, we're going to set it up filter list equals, and then we'll use this and put our information in there. Now, what do we want to put in there? Well, for sure, we want this SU. And you see here I have a sudo.ws, put that. We'll also put a sudo in there as well. Umount probably would be best. Go ahead and put that in the list along with the mount command. But yeah, I'll probably go ahead and do these two because they're not the most useful things that I'm aware of for elevating or lateral movement. PK execute. Yeah, we'll go ahead and exclude that. So things like that is what we want to think about adding into this list. Okay, So here I've got those added into a list, and I just separate them out this way so it's a bit easier for you to see. Okay, so the next thing is we need to go through scan list, compare it to filter list, and then create a new list with files that don't get filtered out. Okay, I just realized something I did completely wrong, and I do this from time to time. I don't know why. That was not a list. That was a tuple setup, and those are immutable. What we want is but the brackets. So yeah, if you were scratching your head when I was doing those, I just wasn't thinking about it. Now we've got actual list. Okay, so now since we got those fixed and actually set up as list, we use a for statement for file in scan list. If file not in filter list, then we want to append it. And then once all that's done, we want to reassign scan out, and we want to join the clean list back together by putting line separators. So let's run this and see if we need to tweak how the output looks anymore. Nope, looks good. If we come up here, oh, interesting. It's only scanning the directory we're in. Huh. What if we get rid of the text true part? It bytes like objects required, not string. Okay, so we need to keep the text in there. Oh, what if it's reading this as an escape? Put the double in. Now let's try it. Still only searching the current directory. Huh. Alright, let me run this by Kiro's AI and see what it comes up with. Okay, so it's running now. So I asked Kiro to look at it and tried running it with the double slash. Apparently I didn't save it after that. What it recommended was going back to the single slash, getting rid of the error piping, and set shell defaults. Because apparently, as I read down, here it is. Since you're already capturing standard error with this statement, error message will be suppressed from the console anyways. I didn't think about that, and it's right. So standard out and standard error, since we're separating those into the two variables, scan out and scan error, it will filter out the errors itself. Now, I have pretty good faith that this is running actually, because you can see down here, the command executed and it's still going. Again, on a target machine, it would not take this long to run, but I'm going to just let it go so I can see what the output is when it's done. So how do we loop this into what we have? Well, first off, come down here. I'm just going to delete that print statement, delete that hashtag, save. Close that, we don't need that, so let's go ahead and delete it. And what we'll do is come back into Hub and just do an import statement, import the file itself here, and then I'd like to just set it to what it's called. And we'll simply add in a line, results, plus equals, and the scan that we just added into the coding. Hit save, and that's it. It's part of the program now. And I cleared that without checking the output. Okay, cool. It finished the scan. So let's take a look at our results here. Okay, so since there was stuff in error, and oh boy, a lot, it activated. Oh, okay, because that's the way we're handling the if statement. So it is giving back code 1. Oh, you know what we can do? So we can leave the main if the way it is. But if error gets returned, and it obviously is, that's going to trigger the 1, we can add in another one to check. Let's go off permission denied. Because I'm debating that and adding find to it. So it searches for both and see if both are in there. You know what? Just as a safeguard, because some weird things can happen out there, let's set up another if statement to check that if both of these are in the error output, then it still defaults back to printing out standard out instead. But would standard out get populated? Well, let's do it and find out, see what we get. So real quick, we'll just come back down here, put our print statement back in. We've got here, if the return code is complete without errors, else we return this. So what we need to do is come down here and let's look for find first. Okay, so I just thought to don't want to have this in here twice because that's just messy code, but it's essentially what we would need. So that means we need to break out this list filtering process into its own separate little function. To do that, just come up here and let's make a function. I'm going to call it filter scan. We want the scan results because that's what we're going to pass. What we'll do is we'll just take all of this, bloop it in there like that, just like this, and bump it back, Shift Tab. Oh, we need to do it one more time. I was thinking. Shift Tab again. There we go. Space down there. To keep all that the same, except we'll change this to scan results. And instead of setting it to a variable, we'll just do, well, God, if I could spell, we'll just return that. Down here, we can take out all of that, and we can simply do scan out equals filter list scan out. So we can actually just copy that, paste that there, and I should went ahead and copy this too, because it's going to be the same thing. We'll just do that. Come down, else, we want to return the error itself. So let's run this segment and see what we get, see if it works. Okay, finally came back, said filter list is not defined. Oh, I didn't spell it right up here. And I guess if I actually put the name of the function up here. It's a morning. Okay, control save. Okay, and to make this a little bit faster, I'm just going to put a dot here so it scans the current directory. Clear that and run it again. Filter scan is not defined. Okay, so I'm going to have to set the self on this. Okay, so to do that, we can leave this part right here as pass is fine, but what we need to do is come to our two functions and do self, comma, and come down here, put self in now, just to show if I just get rid of this, do self dot filter, there it is, and we'll just put the self in front here, and we're good to go. So let's try that again and see if we get any output if I can type. Good night. Like I said, it's been a morning. Whew. Okay, and I did forget, when you call it, you need to put the parentheses here, because scan, even though it's a class, you have to create an instance of it for self to exist, and that's what doing these parentheses does, is create an instance of it. So let's try that one more time. Well, I guess we have our answer, that if error does populate, then we don't get anything. So let's get rid, let's try this. Let's get rid of this error handling here. Set shell to true. And let's put that back in and see what we get. Okay, we get a result. Now let's change this back to slash, and I'll be back when this gets done running. And we're back to our other problem. Okay, I just had a thought. Let's remove that. We'll put the error back in. And I'll probably eventually just remove shell, but until I get done doing all this testing, I'm just going to keep it in. I'll swap it back and forth. Let's keep this. I think all we need to do is, instead of passing scan out here, we can pass scan error. Call the scan error as well. There too. Clear this and run it. I'm going to type non-type is not iterable. Is scan error set as a non-type? What happens if I just change this to true there? Okay, so I'll set shell to true, because I'm wondering if that'll help with printing all this out. And I'm going to do type scan error, because I think it's scan error that's causing this. Run this. Oh, I got rid of the communication line. Crap, how did I do that? Okay, let's try that again. Okay, well, the shelter is definitely going back to the directory, not the cell root. So, okay, I guess I'm just going to have to leave that there for now and deal with the output. Figure out what to do about that later. So let's run this and see what we get. Okay, so completed, and sure enough, yeah, scan error is non-type, so that's an easy enough fix. Simply just change this. Actually, it says not iterable, so yeah, it probably is the if statement that's causing that, if I had to guess. And basically everywhere we got scan error like this, we're just going to go ahead and convert it to a string, which means do it here when we're calling the function, and we'll be fine there. Okay, let's try that and see what we get. Okay, interesting. We got a none back. And it says error. So that means it ran this. Let's come in here. Let's do another print, 'cause I'm curious about something now. And let's just print the first 25 characters. I want to see what scan error looks like before the if statement's applied. Okay, so we get the irritable again. So we need to set that as string. Yeah, should have thought of that. And I'm just curious. Let's go ahead and do a print. Do a print out, see if it shows up here. It'd be interesting to see. So what I think it is scan error is returning as a non-type because we've got standard error set to true. So I wonder if we set that to pipe, if that would throw it in there, and we know it would keep it from shoving up down here. So let me run this real quick, see what this line returns, and if it doesn't return anything, we'll flip that to pipe and see the difference. Okay, so we got the not type object is not subscribable, so we can't do this. So let's just do that simple print statement with it and try one more time. And this is a good way to kind of troubleshoot and go through things. Okay, so it looks like scan out does populate. And if we come down here, yep, we see that none. Okay, so by having this set, it prints the errors out, doesn't feed them into scan error, so that turns none. And on top of that, we're always going to have errors, so we're always going to have permission denied. So we got to get rid of this if logic. Set this to false. Pull this if statement back a tab, and we'll leave this checks for scan error there. But this time we want to pass scan out. So we'll still have a scan out separate from scan error. So that should keep it from printing the screen. It will populate scan error so that this statement and this statement will actually be able to execute. And then it should print out scan out, which we have confirmed does populate. So, and I realized when he said that's false, that needs to be to pipe. So we can actually pipe it to a variable. All right, cool. We got an output here. Yep, and if you look here, the user bin, those filters we put in place, they're working. Cool. All right, call this a done on this. Get rid of that, throw that there. Hub, we're good. Let's clear this. Come back to system scan, and let's run this, and I'll be back with the output file when it's done. All right, let's take a look. Okay, our sudo command went fine. Present working directory. Home scan, found flag, found SSH info, and there's our output. Sweet. Cool. It works. We got it. I'm going to call that a wrap on this because I've been working on this for about an hour and a half, and hopefully when I edit it, I can get it down to less than 15 minutes. I hope. All right. Well, thank you all for watching to the end. I want to get this straightened up, push the code to my server, and then push the code out to GitHub so you can access it and have fun with it. Thanks for watching to the end. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you enjoy my channel, please subscribe. And I hope you have a good week. I'll see you next time.